Yeah.
Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to Ala's World of Finance and welcome to Stock Market Daily. So I hope you're all having a fantastic day. In today's quick video, we're going to talk about AMD. We're also going to talk a little bit about Amazon and their deal and what's going on with the Department of Justice. And we'll also talk a little bit about Snapchat because they have just announced a deal and it's kind of a big one. So let's just go ahead and get started. So when looking at AMD, it basically got announced yesterday on Monday. It got announced that Intel is releasing their Core i9 Extreme Edition processor. They'll be releasing it in October. Okay, so the competitor to that is AMD's Threadripper, and they're releasing it at the end of July. So the Threadripper will actually be released much earlier than Intel's Core i9. And we also know that the Core i9 should be priced at around $2,000, whereas the Threadripper should be priced a lot cheaper than that. So it looks like the Threadripper, AMD's Threadripper, will not only have a price advantage, but they will also have a time advantage. And I think that's going to be huge because the Intel Core i9 should be more powerful, but I think those other two advantages for AMD will really help it sell well, and I think it'll really help their stock. And so I really see them doing well coming up here in the year. And they actually did very well on Monday, so we'll talk about that in a second. But also releasing today is the EPYC from AMD for the data center. And Lisa Su actually talked about this in the past, and she said that they want to bring up production in the next few quarters with the goal of retaking 10% of the data center business. So I actually looked into this a little bit more and I did a little research, and I was reading a report that said that Intel controls 99% of that market, and it was worth $17.2 billion in 2016. Now, if AMD can take just 5% revenue share, so they have a goal of 10%, but if they can get just 5%, it would be half of that. That would equate to around $215 million per quarter for AMD. So that's high margin dollars to improve AMD's financials, and it'll really help them in the long run. Now, coming off of all this news, on Monday, AMD stock went up 4.9%, so very significant. And right now they're at $12 per share. So it looks like they're doing pretty well. Obviously, it could still be volatile. They could still take little dips here and there and stuff like that. But I do think that AMD will be doing very well for the rest of the year. And so I'm still very bullish on AMD. But that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people hate AMD. That's completely fine. But my opinion, I still really like them. And I think that there's a lot of really cool things coming up. Okay, so now talking about Amazon. Well, we know that they announced this deal for acquiring Whole Foods. It's worth $13.7 billion, and they're basically paying $42 per share for Whole Foods stock. Well, U.S. Representative Ro Khanna, she's asking the U.S. Department of Justice to review the acquisition, and they'll basically have the potential or the opportunity to basically deny it. So here's what's going on. She's asking them to review it and to review the acquisition for its impact on the economy. And this is quoting her. This is what she said. She said, "I am concerned about what this deal means for suppliers and neighborhood grocery stores. The Justice Department and FTC must undertake a review that considers not just the merger's impact on prices, but also the impact on jobs and wages." Excuse me. And she also said, "We need to reorient antitrust policy to factor in the harm that economic concentration causes for American workers." Okay, so this is kind of a big deal because I don't really think that this will happen, to be honest, just my opinion, but it is interesting to see, and they can actually deny it. So if that ends up happening, that'll be a big deal, but I'll definitely keep you guys posted on that. Now, Amazon stock was up on Monday's 0.79%, and it basically reached $995.47. So it's getting very close to the $1,000 mark per share again. And we know that they recently took a little bit of a dip there, and I actually told my girlfriend to pick up some Amazon stock on the dip, and it looks like it's coming back up now, so it looks like it's doing pretty well now. But Whole Foods on Monday was actually up 1.45%, and they're at $43.30. So they're actually above that $42 per share price that Amazon was going to pay, or is going to pay. And so sometimes that actually happens when there's a bidding war going on. So sometimes investors and analysts will predict that there's going to be a bidding war, and so that'll actually raise the stock. And so that's why it's above the $42 mark. What my opinion on that, I don't really think that there will be too much of a bidding war, and I also don't think that the Department of Justice will stop the acquisition, but you never know, anything can happen. So I will definitely keep you guys posted on that. Okay, so next up here is Snapchat. and they basically announced this 2-year deal with Time Warner, and it's worth $100 million for Snapchat, so it's very good for Snapchat. And this deal is to produce 10 original shows per year plus advertising on Snapchat. And so coming off of this news, very good news obviously, but coming off of this news, on Monday, Snapchat stock went up 1.37%. At one point it was actually up almost 3%, but it kind of went back down a little bit. So now it's up 1.37%, and their stock is at $17.78. And we know that Snapchat stock has been hammered lately, but now they kind of came back up a little bit. But kind of slightly, so we'll still have to wait and see what happens. I'm still more in the position of holding because I do have Snapchat stock, but I'm currently holding my Snapchat stock because I'm waiting until the end of July where the lockout for some of those initial IPO investors will end, and so they'll be able to sell stock. And I kind of feel like stock may take a dip at that point. So I'm kind of neutral on Snapchat right now. I have some stock. I'm really in no rush to make any changes to it. I'm just kind of holding and waiting to see what happens. If at the end of July, if the stock dips more or anything like that, then I'll probably be picking up more, but I'm waiting until then. Okay, so last thing that I just want to mention in this video is that on Friday, we will be having Blackberry earnings coming out, so on June 23rd, so keep an eye out for that. I am expecting them to outperform analysts, and I do think that the stock should do better, but that's just my opinion. I do have stock in Blackberry, and I am bullish on Blackberry. So either way, I'll be holding on to my Blackberry stock because I still believe in them in the future, and I'm a long-term investor in Blackberry. Okay, the other last thing I want to mention is that actually today, so June 20 today, OnePlus is announcing the OnePlus 5. So that's a phone. They're announcing the OnePlus 5. You can't actually invest in OnePlus, but I think it's kind of a big deal because it's sort of like a flagship killer. It's going to have flagship specs, and it's going to should cost less than $500. So it could be bad news for other stocks that produce cell phones like Samsung and Apple and things like that. But anyway, that phone should have, I believe it's going to have at least 6 gigabytes of RAM, which is very high. Should have the Snapdragon 835 processor. I believe it's going to have a dual camera as well. So I'm actually thinking about picking it up myself. So it'll be very interesting to see what they announce and what happens there. So anyway, I think that's about it. Oh, and by the way, if I do pick up the OnePlus 5, if you guys are interested, I could make a review video on that actual phone. If you guys want to see it, I could make a review video, but just let me know in the comments if you do want that. If not, it's completely fine, not a big deal. Okay, so anyway, I think that's about it. So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new, please subscribe. If you like the video, hit the like button. If you watch the video all the way through to this very point in time, then you're OnePlus 5 because you're very interesting and I want to know more about you and I might even buy you. So no, that sounded weird. So, okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. But anyway, thank you for watching and I hope that you all have a wonderful, beautiful day. Take care.